Hey folks, so I want to take a minute to talk to you about this lockdown and where it's evolving to and what I feel the next phase of this process is going to be in regards to big government's work against us, the people. So in the first phase of lockdown, we've seen a lot of misinformation and use of fear by the powers that be to divide us and get people to submit to a lockdown that really wasn't necessary. Really, it did more harm than good, because rather than allow people to be exposed and the natural biological process of immunity to take place, they kept everybody locked away from each other, and there was a lot of loss of life. Irregardless. Now, in the next phase of this attack, because it is an attack on our very freedoms, they want to take our liberties. They can't implement control without our willingness to let them do so. So at this point, the government has to do a couple things to keep this control they've seized. And understand, I'm not saying they're all bad people, but some things like alcohol and drugs and power make you do stupid, crazy things. It's as simple as that. So in the case of this, where they're at now is they have people who have stood up and resisted. These sheriffs and mayors and county commissioners and governors all over the country who have said, no, not doing this to my people. I'm an elected official who said I support the Constitution. So where it's already edging toward, and where I think it's going to go full bore at this point, is they have to bring these people on board. They have to get everybody invested in this, even if that means that is not willingly. So here's what I see happening. These food shortages are going to keep getting worse. And they're trickling down here towards the south. It's not as bad down here as it is up there. We still have food in the stores up here. I hear up north they're having a lot of problems with food, and that's sad. I feel for those people. They're in my prayers. But it's not affecting us so bad yet. And most of us have the good sense to be somewhat prepared for these kind of things. So here's what I see being done. I see these governors and county commissioners and such that are on board with this plan of tyranny. I believe they're going to begin controlling the highways and saying who can go where and who can do what. And they're going to restrict access to food to certain parts of the country. I believe they're also going to hit our power grids and possibly water as well. And what this is going to do is these mayors and city councils and the like who have been pro-liberty, who have supported their people and who have kept their constitutional oaths, when that food's choked out and there's not enough going around to feed everybody, and they've got all these people in apartment complexes and low-income neighborhoods who don't have the ability to feed their children and themselves, and they're banging on government doors saying, help us, help us, help us. These elected officials are going to be in a very bad place. And what's going to happen, whether or not they want to do this or they actually believe it's right, is those of us who are preppers, those of us who have stored food and grown gardens and made sure our families were prepared for this calamity, we're going to go from being preppers to hoarders. And at that point, in the interest of the public good, it will not be a big step for these elected officials to order law enforcement officers or whoever else they have to order. Not saying these officers will obey that command. Not making that assumption at all. Some may, some may not. But it's not going to be it's not a big push to see that these elected officials are going to have no choice but to come find people who are prepared and who have food stored and say, you can't hoard that when there's people who are hungry. That's not your right. And that's going to result in violence. And that, unfortunately, is going to force these people who are on our side over to the other side of the fence. I see it happening. Any day now, these food shortages are going to start getting worse. They're still trying to push masks down our throat. They're still trying to push, vaccines down our throats. I was surprised to see a article on a Google search engine that one of the drugs they've been talking about that was used to treat SARS has been approved for helping to treat COVID. Props. Anything but a vaccine. Especially since the vaccine they're proposing is... no. I'm not going to go into that because YouTube will cut my video off, but in my personal opinion, I disagree with it. I'm not an anti-vaxxer. All my kids are vaccinated for the relevant viruses. But I don't believe that a vaccine with a tracking chip in it is to the benefit of the American people and liberty. Anyway, back on point. I see this being phase 2. Watch your news, watch your stores. Make sure you're preparing. Put some stuff away. Be ready. Store water. Buy water filters. Learn how to clean your water. These are skills that are going to be necessary. And I strongly advise you be ready for them. At the end of the day, folks, we're on a course. We can't change it. We just have to write it out and try to direct it in the direction we want it to go. As always, folks, be decent to each other. We're all in this together. God bless you.